Okay. Well, welcome to the Fire Center, everybody. For those of you that are brand new and don't know who I am, my name is Rich Rice. I'm the owner, operator, and founder of this building. And for those of you that missed the announcements last week, we are expanding our presence beyond the Inland Empire. Okay, so we got 4 new groups that are coming out. We are spinning out Exchangers into its own group. We also have a group that's going to be focused on cash flow, like the board game cash flow, for those of you guys that like cash flow. That one's going to be the Rat Race Escape Club. So, and then one that I'm really excited about is CalREA. That's going to be the California Real Estate Investors Alliance. And that one is going to be focused on policy making here in California. Okay, so for those of you landlords out there that don't like some of the stuff that's been coming down from Sacramento, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about how we can maybe affect that a little bit better. Okay, so a lot of announcements coming out about that in the next few weeks. If you want to go to firecenterhq.com, you can sign up for sign up for updates, or you can go to any social media, and that's the @FireCenterHQ on everything. Okay, so if you want to follow that, you'll start getting updates for all the things that are coming. And for those of you IRIC members out there, there's going to be some changes to membership and all that coming too. So keep an eye out for it, okay? With that, who made an offer this week?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Didn't? That was last week? All right, it's all right. Sorry, keep them up. Who got offers accepted? Missy, you want to come tell us about it?
Yes, she does.
Come on, let's give her a round of applause. Get her up here. Come on, we want to hear about it. Just a quick version. Don't worry, we won't ask you for the address. Just tell us real quick your name.
My name is Missy.
All right. How did you find this deal?
Well, I was driving around with another investor friend, and he's familiar with the area. This is in Arizona.
Cool.
And he drove by a house, and he said, "See that burned out house right there? I want that house." And that was about it. Like, he hadn't really done anything about it. So I went on Property Radar. I found out who the owner was. I did a skip trace. I found his phone number. I sent the guy a text. I said, "Would you, the typical, interested in selling your house?" He replied the next morning, "Sure."
Nice.
I was not expecting that.
Have you done that before?
Yeah,
that same steps?
But I haven't gotten that kind of a response before. And so I passed it along to my partner, and they talked, and the partner put an offer, and it's moving forward.
Cool. Can you tell us the numbers?
So I don't know if this is going to make a lot of sense because it's in Arizona, and the numbers are all different
That's okay.
over there. But he's basically getting it for the price of the land, $100,000.
All right. We'll say that's good. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. Awesome. So who's heard of that strategy before? Who thinks it doesn't work? It works. It doesn't work every time, but every once in a while you get a sure. It works, but you got to be consistent, take action, do it consistently. Any other offers accepted out there? Anybody offers that were made?
Who made an offer this week?
Who made an offer this week?
Yeah, raise your hands.
Good.
3 of you. Do you remember?
That is good that the 3 of you made offers. The rest of you.
Didn't try to buy something you didn't buy anything.
Yeah, guys, these deals, like I said last week, they're not going to drop in your lap. You have to be out there taking action. You have to be making offers. Okay, offers that make sense. I mean, just making crazy offers. Anybody or just throwing offers out your window as you're driving by the house isn't really an offer. Okay, but you do need to be making offers. Okay, I hope you guys aren't. I like seeing you guys all the time and every single week. But if you're just coming here for the food and acting like you're doing something, okay, we need to have a talk. All right. So find some offers. There better be more hands up next week. All right. With that, we made an offer up in Crestline. Caitlin is an insurance agent and works for her mom occasionally, and had a client come in that her dad passed away. You know what, babe? Come here. Come on. Come up here. Let's give Caitlin a round of applause. She's like right when I was chewing on food. So how'd you find her?
So luckily, I have a local insurance agent in a small community who's also my mom. And she actually has brought me 2 leads so far. This one has gone further than the first one, but it's really awesome because they trust their insurance agent with their problems, and I'm a possible solution for the problems. So this lady, her dad has been a client of ours for over like 7 years, and she's the daughter, and she's also on the policy as a name insured, and her dad passed away like 17 months ago. So it's been a long time that she's been paying the mortgage and not even living there. So that's the first problem. The second problem is she just doesn't want the memories anymore of her dad, and
It's been tough on her to sell.
Yeah, it's been tough on her to sell, so that's why it has taken her this
She lived
long.
there. They've owned her 20 years. She lived there with her dad a lot of those years.
Yes.
She's been making the payment this 17 months, this whole time. Payments, utilities.
While also burying her dad and dealing with family.
Clashes and people arguing over money.
And also dealing with the expensive rates of insurance up there. That's why she's finally just done, because her insurance is going up so much, and just everything adding up and is going up.
She showed us a mortgage statement from 4 years ago, and it was like $1,000 a month, and now it's almost $1,400 just from insurance and taxes going up. So,
which is still a great payment.
So what do we do?
So we sat down with her. I made the appointment with her, and luckily she's willing. She's ready to sell now, and I just said, hey, I might have an option for you that might be faster than listing it. And we sat down with her. She's a very nice lady. She collects seashells, and she ended up giving me one of her seashells. That was really cool. Just connecting with them on a different level. It's not all about the house. So I got to find out about what she likes to collect, and ultimately what her goal is. It was kind of hard for her to tell us her goal, like whether she needed a lump sum to live off for the rest of her life, or whether she's going to go buy another house, or whatever she was going to do. She needed the cash to go buy a house with her daughter.
She doesn't want just a room. She wants a mother-in-law suite.
Yeah, she wants to go buy a mother-in-law suite, a different property. So anyways, just sitting down with her, getting to know her, seeing if she would do like a seller carry option or a sub 2 option, because she does have a 3.265.
3.6.
Oh, 3.625.
Really good, whatever it was.
Good enough. Better than now.
With only 10 years left on it. So
Like 10.
she wasn't interested in that option though. We couldn't really. She didn't want she wants the money in the bank. Unfortunately, but so we made her some offers, and
We made her some offers, and unfortunately, even though they've done a lot to the house, like they built retaining walls, they've done all this other stuff, it didn't really bring the value of the house up like she thought. And she's a smoker, so there's a couple things that still need to be done on the inside.
yeah, we asked her like the white vinyl windows were all stained on the inside.
The walls
She's
are all
like, I
yellow.
was like, did somebody smoke in here? And she's like, no.
I was like, I don't know.
I'm like, well, there's like staining everywhere. Is that from the stove? That's on the other side of the room. And she's like, well, I don't know, maybe. So she didn't take our offer yet.
Yeah, she didn't take our offer yet, but we're pretty dang close to where she wants to be.
Yeah, we're like 10 or 15 off, so
And
we'll see.
the one
Andy's
thing,
dying to jump in here. Should we give him a chance?
Did you point out the fact, does she have the right insurance or is she uninsured?
she has the right insurance.
She's got vacant house insurance.
She's still living there. There's still furniture. I'm an insurance agent, Andy. She's fine.
She's covered.
It is not vacant. She's still paying utilities. She's still paying everything.
She still has that part
But
time.
she did want to sell it with everything in it. So that was her main concern is like, can I sell it furnished? Can I sell it with the pots and pans and the dishes?
The three snow blowers that are in the
The
garage.
3 snow, like just, it was her
Okay, we'll
dad's
take 'em.
house. He had a lot of stuff. She has stuff.
It's just memories. It's a lot of emotion. She didn't want to be going through everything. There's pictures on the wall. There's linens. There's
She didn't even move.
clothes in the closet that she's like, I'm having a real hard time with the clothes. Like,
She didn't
you know,
even move his
so.
sunglasses off the kitchen table and his jacket off the kitchen chair. So it's a lot of emotion, and I'm just hoping.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I asked her to clear the table so we could sit down, and then I walked out and looked at the garage. So,
Well, I
is
pay
that why she didn't take it?
I pay attention to detail. So, long story short, the moral, the whole lesson here is that we're just hoping to provide a solution to her.
Yeah.
If ours isn't the solution, at least we can help her out in as many ways as we can.
Yeah, we even told her if you don't like it, you can just, if you have any real estate questions or whatever, want you work with a different agent or we refer an agent to you or either way.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. It wasn't a no.
Yeah.
It was, I want to think about it.
Yeah.
And, it's not the type of seller that, you want to get super pushy with. She's going through a lot, so.
No, even though he called her the same day and said,
I did try it. I did try and close it, but a couple hours later. But I wanted to judge how serious she was too. Because sometimes if you're asking, I just want to get rid of it. I just want to get rid of it. I just want to get rid of it, and then they're on the fence, over $10,000, and you can get close to that $10,000, and they're still telling you no. There might be something else there that you're missing. So, and we're not quite there yet. So, we'll see. We'll see. So, but the point is what she was talking about, the seashells and all that. We were there for over an hour and a half. We probably talked about the house for 20 minutes. The other hour and a half was over an hour was just listening to her. Hearing about the house, hearing about the stories, about her dad, looking at pictures on the wall with her. So.
Telling
Anyways.
us about locals anyway. All right.
Yep, great job. Good. We'll get some more. All right. That is the key to my car. That is not the, I always have too much stuff in these pockets. I thought I had the clicker. No? Do I not? Other pockets. There we go. All right. Real quick, I do this every week. You are, as when you buy your ticket or sign up for membership and whatnot, you are in here, you're being recorded. Okay, we have cameras going everywhere. This all ends up on YouTube. So if you are somewhere, or if you are someone that is not supposed to be here, you are supposed to be somewhere else, and you don't want your face in anything, we have sunglasses and hats for sale over there, or you need to leave. Okay, that's your options. We do have a bunch of sponsors here, and we love them. They help pay for the food, the lights, the air conditioning that we're all enjoying. So if you're ever in need of any of their services, please scan that code or go to the website and check them out. Can I get my sponsors to raise their hands, please? So let's give them a round of applause. And again, check them out if you need anything, okay? At least give them a chance first. And for those of you that went on the cruise in February, all right. And Mark. It was a lot of fun. We went to Mexico, Ensenada for 4 days. And I can't believe that was like 4 months ago. That's scary. It feels like it was yesterday. So we're gonna do it again. We're going to Catalina this time and Ensenada in February of this coming year, and then Alaska in September of 2025. So if you want to check any of those out, the website's right there, firevoyager.com. You can get information on that. Again, just a reminder, if you want to go on that, you can put the deposit in now. That deposit is 100% refundable until like 2 months before we sail when the final thing is due. You can also make payments. You don't have to do it all at once. And the sooner you book, the better room you get. Okay, so those of you who've never been on an investor cruise, we have speakers and people that are like tonight. We'll have them on the cruise also. And you get to sit at dinner with everybody every night and get to meet people and hang out for more than just an hour here. It's a really good time. And you get to travel and see different parts of the world. So check that out if you're interested. And with that, we will bring up the Queen of Mobile Homes, Miss Farrah Lane. Mobile Home Queen, sorry. I didn't get the branding right. Very round of applause.
Get it right. Anyways, hello everyone. Wow, this is great. I love seeing a full house. Thank you. And I'll switch over to our presentation here in a minute. Okay. So, how many of you came specifically for short-term, midterm rentals? Specifically? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm asking because Stephanie, I was just talking to her. I'm like, there are people that came here tonight specifically for that. So thank you all for coming, and welcome to all the new people. Who's our first time here? Raise your hand. Yeah, welcome. And thank you to our members for referring a lot of you, so it's great to see your faces. Just to kind of give you the format for tonight, we're going to try not to take questions during the presentations because we will do a Q&A with Breanna and Stephanie at the end. So they'll come up, both of them will be up here in the front, and we could do Q&A. So if you do have a question, try to write it down. I think depending on time, they might be able to take a couple questions here and there, but we'll try to do that during the Q&A session at the end, okay? So First, we have Stephanie Figueros. You don't have to come up yet. I mean, you can stand up or whatever you want to do. But she is the STR queen. She does everything STRs. I'll let her go over her bio here in a minute. She is actually a really good friend of mine. We actually partnered on a deal, a flip that we did up in Crestline. Not everything's a win, but hey, we're still friends, right? We're still friends. I call that a win. To not do what you're gonna do and still be friends after, that's what matters. So thank you for that. But so Stephanie, come on up.
Thank you, Farah. So, hey everybody, I'm Stephanie Figueros, and let me make sure I can actually, am I missing it? Oh, okay, I think they got it. All right, well, so for those of you who maybe have been with the club long enough, I want to say last year, I did 2 sessions about short-term rentals, and more so the how-tos of how to get started, things to know about it. But today, Farah asked me to come back to give an STR market update. And on top of that, more of what now? What do we do now? Because there's a lot of fear-mongering when it comes to short-term rentals. And the first thing I want to profess with that is that it is never a blanket statement. I mean, we're all in real estate. And for me, I'm in multiple markets, so I might as well just go and tell you a little bit about myself. So I am the STR Nation co-founder. What this is I have my own community of short-term rental investors here in Southern California. We actually have a short-term rental conference in July next month in San Diego. It's our 3rd one. And so I plug myself in, and I've created a community of short-term rental investors around myself. Physically, I'm located in Banning, and if any of you know where that is, kudos to you, but I grew up here in Riverside. I joke because Banning we just got a boba shop, and I'm so proud of that. So whenever I come to Riverside, I'm like, they have Trader Joe's, Cheesecake Factory. I didn't realize how extra I really was until I moved. But where I invest in California, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. Short-term rental experience-wise, I've done rental arbitrage. I always joke because the first place I did a short-term rental was here in California in Moreno Valley. And that was my most stable short-term rental, and I'm so sad I don't have one, and I want another one in that market because nobody is there. I own properties, I joint ventured, and I have co-hosting experience as well, also known as STR Property Management. Currently, I am a short-term rental realtor with Savvy Realty, so I cover here in Southern California. I exclusively work with short-term rental buyers and sellers. So I do have a lot to say when it comes to Southern California specifically, but I can speak on out-of-state areas as well. I have my own property management, Vivid Kind of Properties, and I'm also the founder of Bravo Virtual Assistants. It's a VA agency. It is overseas, but I help source virtual assistants for real estate professionals. And then background-wise, I'm a registered nurse, so I am not qualified to do any of the stuff I do now. But thank you for those who clapped, because you know what? I am proud of that. Everybody's a patient. Guests are a patient, clients are a patient, vendors are our patients. If I talk to you like a patient, you'll know why. But everything I've ever learned translates extremely well to what I do today. So that's a little bit about myself. And what we're going to talk about next is, this is based off of AirDNA. Anybody recognize or familiar or heard of AirDNA before? Okay, so they're pretty much the lead software I wouldn't call them a program, but they are a tech company that specialize in short-term rental data. There are a couple of different competitors. There's Rabu, STR Insights, there's Awning, there's also Mash Advisor. There's a lot of different tech companies that exclusively analyze short-term rental data. And what this means is that they're not just looking at what can a property make, they are looking at trends in the markets. And before I dive into this is the part where really, really important. It is really hard to put a blanket statement on every single short-term rental in the United States. So what you're gonna see next, I didn't make this up, it's from them, but this is as good as it can get on a blanket level. So I'm gonna make a lot of distinctions as I kind of go through the data, because there are different markets within short-term rentals. Two of the biggest ones that are down the middle, you have the vacation markets and you have the city markets. This is important because where you buy makes all the difference. And I primarily nowadays, I'm in the vacation space. Why am I in the vacation space? Because I like vacationing. So that is why I chose it. When I travel, I like tax write-offs. But I have experience also in the cities. To give you some context on that, I've operated properties in Joshua Tree, Redlands, Long Beach, Moreno Valley, and those are not vacation areas. So who you're targeting that makes a big difference in what we're gonna go into next. So we're gonna go over 2023 and 2024. With 2023, so a lot of people found that it wasn't a great year compared to 2021 and 2022. Why that is because of COVID. A lot of people decided that they wanted a staycation because they couldn't go anywhere else, so they stayed at short-term rentals, and during that time period, a lot of people did really, really well. But come 2023, people noticed a dip. And it wasn't really a dip, so that's kind of the stuff that AirDNA talks about. So just to kind of go over some terms here, so RevPAR. This is actually a term that's used with hotels. It's revenue per available room. With short-term rentals, now it gets kind of tricky because we're talking about single-family houses, but the occupancy versus nightly rate does apply when it comes to short-term rentals and hotels. So there's a lot of overlap there. Some people found in their market that revenue declined, and some people in other markets found that the revenue actually increased. So again, highly, highly dependent on where your properties are located. Record demands in July and over 1.6 million listings by September. So most areas, when it comes to seasonality, July typically is a hot month. Why? Because that's when everybody is not working. So usually. So that's a little bit more applicable to vacation markets, but even in the corporate side, July tends to be a hot month, which I'm happy about because that's next month. I'm ready for it. Now with occupancy and pricing, so there's that concept of supply and demand. Again, market research is huge, but what people never talk about is configuration. So when we hear saturation, what are we actually talking about? If you look on data sites like AirDNA and Rabu, it's a free website, you can look it up. RABBU is how you spell it. You can actually you can go and search by markets, and then you can see what the revenue potential is by the bedroom count. This is important because at the end of the day, why would somebody go to a hotel versus a house? And I've come to find that it's because it makes more sense for a group of 10 to 12 people to go to a house and split that than a couple of hotel rooms. So if you look in a place like Savannah, Georgia, it is difficult to get STR permits over there. The best return you'll get are 5, 6 plus bedroom counts. Because one, there's not that many that have that, but the demand is enough to where these guys are constantly full in that market. So I have 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. I even have a 9 bedroom. And what you'll find is there's an inverse relationship between, bigger groups, bigger houses tend to have a little bit of a lower occupancy, again, depending on the market. Smaller bedrooms have higher because it's a little bit easier for a couple or one person to go travel. But then the price points are the biggest difference, your nightly rate. So you're competing when you're a 2-bedroom, 2-hotel room, but when you're a 4-bedroom and up, you're in a league of your own, and you're competing with other 4-bedrooms. So I've come to like 4-bedroom properties the most, just because I'm not worried about hotels. 10 to 12 people, all day long will make more sense in a house than a hotel. And a good example is that Moreno Valley property was originally a 4-bedroom, but there was an office. I took that and decided to turn it into a bedroom, and you can for the sake of short-term rentals when you list it. So I was accommodating up to 12 people. My next competitor could occupy 11. So that was very intentional that I went for 12, because I started noticing that I was getting more guests, and I also made the property better. So the National Orange Show Convention Center does a lot of raves. And so I brought this up, but I know there's some people who have never heard this before, but that place will make you a lot of money if you do a short-term rental during those months or those weekends. I was charging in Moreno Valley $1,300 a night. I know, I should have charged more. And it's crazy because I thought I was pushing the envelope here, but when I looked at other competitors, I guess I was being worried, like, oh, I hope someone will book me. Let's try it at $1,300. And I'm like, that was too quick. I should have waited and let the price go. So this is a strategy. But I didn't know any better because I didn't realize that this was a popular event. But what I would do then as well is I would give them glow sticks, Gatorade, Pedialyte, water. I'm a really good host, so. And they were happy as clams, and they want to come back next time. So with that being said, again, when I say this data, I don't want you guys to think this is like the end-all be-all, but these are things, there's a lot of variables when you have to look at this. So some places, again, did really well. Some places didn't do so well. Now, 2024 projections. So demand-wise, expected to grow by 10.7%, supported by economic growth and domestic travel recovery. So people are traveling more now. People are ready to start going out again. We're actually seeing a lot more international travelers. I'm noticing in my Florida property, we get a lot of international people. I'm in the Orlando market over there. So I'm starting to get people from the UK, people from just overseas coming to travel back. Don't get those as much in Texas, but I do see them in my Tennessee property and my Florida especially. Supply, so 2024, this is what they're projecting. We are now in, are we in June really? Okay, I guess we're in June now. Slowed growth due to high mortgage rates, but still increasing. Supply and demand are anticipated to find equilibrium. So there is a leveling out that a lot of people are noticing. And what I'm finding that's interesting is I'm an STR realtor, and this was something that I pursued full-time more recently. And so what I'm seeing with a lot of buyers, I work with a lot of buyers, is I always ask, why are you getting a short-term rental? Because there's a lot of work involved. And there's a lot of reasons why someone would get a short-term rental. There's revenue. You will make more money typically than a long-term rental. But a lot of people do this for tax reasons because you can do cost segregation studies to offset your W-2 income. So I tend to work with a lot of high-income earners that don't care about making money. They just want the depreciation from what short-term rental specifically will give you. Next is occupancy. So likely to stabilize around 54.7%, similar to 2023 levels. So occupancy is a big thing, and a lot of people get really hung up about occupancy. I really don't care about occupancy, to be quite honest, as much. There's a balance between nightly rent and occupancy. If you do the math, and I don't have an example of this, you can tell, what happens if I raise the price but my occupancy goes down? What does that number equal? Versus what happens if I decrease my nightly rate, but now my occupancy increases. So for this year, what I'm started realizing is that people aren't actually paying as much as they did before. It says modest price increase, but in some of the markets I'm in, I notice I'm not claiming as high of a rate, and that's okay, because I'm starting to increase my occupancy instead. So there's a lot of strategy involved when you get these short-term rentals. If you were here in the last sessions I talk about there's 4 phases of the short-term rental journey. We are talking about the last one, which is optimization and revenue management. So how do we stay booked and continue to make money? Average daily rates, we just covered that, and then RevPAR, revenue per available room, expected to rise 1.9%. So people are still traveling. That is the truth. Where I think a lot of the stuff lies is your property going to do better than your next door neighbors? So we'll go a little bit more into that towards the end. Now, this is a big thing, I wanted to just put the whole thing there, but market dynamics. So 2023 was a year to forget for STR investors, but 2024 is poised to bring good news. Now, what I find interesting was that 2023 was not bad for me, but that's also probably because I'm very, very active and involved in my properties. I'm finding that 2024 right now is actually doing right about the same as 2023. So again, if you are not very active in your short-term rentals, a lot of people are, if you stay the same, you will not do as well. So you always have to improve, and that's the key word, is improve. And a lot of investors that started sooner or don't take this seriously, like the business that it is, they're the ones that are really seeing pain. Now, this is an outlook based off of some of the years in terms of listings. If you notice, there's actually a trend of more listings. Nights listed, percentage change, the lead times, the pacing is shorter. The demand right now is a little bit less than it was in 21 and 22, but compared to 2023, it's actually about a little bit more. So to summarize what these numbers mean, I'm noticing that there is a stabilization. So a lot of people say that we're going back to a norm, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean that, you know, it's dead. It's just COVID numbers are not going to be how they once were today, in today's market. So 2024 supply. Ferocious growth now finds balance. So supply growth easily exceeds demand growth. And it's interesting seeing this as an agent myself, because the people who are selling, why are they selling their STRs? I'm finding there's like 3 top reasons. Reason number 1 is that they're actually in a partnership with another investor and they want to cash out and part ways. That's the number 1 reason why I'm finding folks are selling in Southern California. Number 2, they just don't want to have a short-term rental. It was a lot more work than they realized. And number 3, they are moving to another market and they just simply they want to take their investments with them and cash out. If you notice, this has a lot more to do with the people than it is with the properties. And that's a really big distinction, because there are still people who sell because they're not doing well, but that's not a house problem. That's more of a management problem. Now, occupancy in 2024 returned to normal after COVID-19. So, again, with the stabilization when it comes to short-term rentals, just numbers are returning back to what they were before. So a lot of investors will not look at 20 and 2021 numbers when they're buying. And I'll be very honest, I would always take other people's numbers as a baseline. Doesn't mean because, you know, the seller performed at this rate, that means that you're going to only do that much. It's more like a baseline. And I actually tell this to short-term rental buyers because they'll get so fixated on that. And the truth is, you're not going to operate this the same way they did. So, but when you're brand new, it's hard to know what you're going to do, and there is a learning curve involved. And so I always tell people, this is a buy and hold strategy. Year 1 is going to look way different than year 2, year 3. For me, my years have always gotten better, but that's because I got better, and my properties started getting a track record. So, outlook-wise, you should, if you're going to do short-term rentals, you really should keep this. You shouldn't sell like in a year. You should actually try to keep it much longer than that to really see the return that it can give you. Now, how to stand out and stay booked. So this is the part where we're no longer just real estate investors. We are business people now running an operation. So focus on visibility, better marketing. Now, you guys saw I'm a nurse. I did not come from a business or marketing background, but I didn't let that stop me from getting booked, so I started learning this. Not only did I start learning marketing, like actually intentionally looking or learning it, I started to find people that could help me do it better than what I could do with it. One thing that we are also doing is considering more platforms. So for the very first time, and we'll see how this goes, is I'm on Booking.com. And the reason why people don't like Booking.com, Airbnb charges hosts 3%. Once you get a booking, 3% goes to Airbnb. Booking.com charges 15%. So that's a big difference, right? Not only that, Booking.com they're a whole different beast. If you don't put the right filter, the guests will not pay ahead of time, and they might show up to try to give you money. And if you're not at the property, well, they get a free stay. So there's a lot of horror stories on Booking, but there's more exposure on Booking.com than Airbnb. It targets international crowds. Airbnb is very domestic based here in the US. So I'm gonna try it. So, we'll see how it goes. It's so funny because myself and my VAs, we only put 2 properties live on Booking just to see how this goes. But I'm hopeful because people find success on Booking.com. You just have to set yourself up right. On top of that, on more platforms, I'm doing I've always done VRBO, which used to be called HomeAway. I'm doing a lot more direct booking websites. And we're getting more direct bookings. And I have my own personal website. So how do you market a direct website? You have to get it seen by everybody and anything. So I actually leverage, hopefully Airbnb doesn't see this, I leverage Airbnb and VRBO and get those guests to book with me direct instead. How do I do this? I have a QR code on photo number 5 that, if you scan it, don't do as I say, because I'm pretty aggressive. I know, he's clapping. He's like, oh my God, she's gonna get delisted. Been there, done that, it's fine. There's a reason why my Florida property is on its own account. A 9-bedroom that sleeps 24 people will have problems. So I can handle anything now. But it's not the end of the world when it comes to, I've never been caught by Airbnb, but again, I'm aggressive. I also have it to where if they scroll at the very bottom, they will see if they look us up at my website, they can also get 10% off. So they will get, a better rate if they book with me direct. That's one way I do it. I also collect emails. So you know how at hotels you put your email in before you go on the Wi-Fi? Me too. Some people don't like it. I don't care. If you want my internet, you will give me your emails. And we market to returning guests so that they come back. And we also filter it, because if we don't want you back, then we won't, try to market to you too. So again, this is business. This isn't real estate anymore. And that's the big distinction you have to realize with short-term rentals, especially in today's market conditions. So visibility, and I'm on Facebook Marketplace. It's the funniest thing because you can't list per night. You can only list per month, and people don't read the description. So staying visible is paramount. This is probably the #1 thing you need to do is get in front of more people. Some people do Facebook ads. I'm too cheap, so I haven't done that yet. And on top of that, Facebook groups is actually one of the biggest places I market. There's groups for travelers looking for places to stay in your market, especially if you're in a vacation space. So I will, I'm aggressive when it comes to, getting people to try to book with me like that. And why do I want direct bookings? The reason why is control. I get way more control, because Airbnb will sometimes, and this is just the reality of this, so I want people to know, it's a love-hate relationship with Airbnb. They're a necessary evil. I sound like Andy right now. But, we do it, we leverage their visibility to do that. But you get way more control, because Airbnb will sometimes give refunds without your consent. And it is one of the worst things in the world when they do that. But when they book direct, you are the rule. So, but we do what's fair. Number 2 is better listing optimization and revenue management. This is so important. This is the phase 4 aspect. You cannot stop learning. I educate myself all the time on best practices, better ways to stand out. There's people that do stuff better than I do, so I continuously will learn from them so that I can improve my own listings. Revenue management, this is big too, because how you price your property is everything. It's just like buying a house. Why would someone buy your house versus the next house? Why would somebody book with you versus the next person? A lot of it has to do with pricing and pacing. And what pacing means is, when will people book your property in June? When do most people book? Anyone want to guess? For summer, when do people mostly book for summer? Christmas. Christmas is when people do this, because families are together. We want to do our forecast for the next year. So we learned something today. Good. Yeah, that's my point. I didn't know this until I really started getting serious about educating myself in this asset class. And so Christmas is when summer is, here's the cool part. Don't be, there's minimum stays that you can ask for. I will personally try to increase my minimum night stay and decrease my pricing because it will show better compared to the next person. And most people that book that far out are planners. They're not going to come for 2-3 days. These guys are going to come for 5 to 7 days to make it worth the trip, especially on bigger houses. It's stuff like this that you need to know if you're going to do this asset class or if you're already in it. So, and the way we learn stuff like revenue management and more data, Price Labs is how I know about this. And if you don't know what that is, basically it can keep money on your plate because it will hike your price up when there's more people searching on Airbnb. So how did I know that the NOS Center was a thing? It's because I didn't Google it. I started getting all these inquiries about, because I always ask, what's the nature of your visit? And they'll tell me I'm here for a rave, or they don't say the word rave, they say I'm here for an event. Because they're worried that I'm gonna say no, and then I'm like, why do we keep getting these? And then we figured out because on our Price Labs dashboard, they're color-coded based off of demand, which is great for a person like me to know, or any investor, because if it's super blue, it means it's like everyone's searching for those dates. It's a high interest event. And I started noticing this every so often, and then I figured it out. I think I took it out of one of the guests that was trying to book with me. Like, that's exciting. Is it a music event? And then that's how I figured it out. Because I'm like, why would somebody want to go to Moreno Valley for a concert? Turns out we're actually pretty close to the NOS Center, close enough. 15, 20 minutes away, they have to go through the Retchie Canyon back way, but we could sleep that many people. So these are the things you have to think about when you're doing this stuff. So revenue management, how you price yourself, is important. There's also revenue management of, so the highest, what do you guys think is the highest time of year, highest booking prices? When do you guys think those are? Christmas. It's always Christmas. It's the holidays. Holidays are always the highest. So do I want to get booked first on Christmas if I know that it's the highest demand? No. Exactly. Don't be that person. I've seen that. They're like, I got Christmas booked. I'm like, it's June. Stop it. You better hope they cancel so that you can hike your prices up. And I sound terrible, but that's how this works. So my point is, you have to know when to turn your prices up and when to turn your prices down. So when do you think is the slowest season of the year? Like, we can do a blanket statement on this, but when do you think that is? September. It's September. Why September? Yes, and I've noticed that no matter what market I'm in, it's always September. So when do you think September should get booked? Any guesses?
December.
No, it's July. It's usually July. So I notice mostly July, but obviously this again is not a blanket statement. But for the markets I'm in, I'll only speak for those. I notice July. So it's June now. I better start getting ready. So how do I do this? I turn the prices down because those people. What happens with slow season is that people will book. They will still visit your the area you're in. It's just they will book more in advance. They're not last minute. Slow season people don't book last minute unless they're weird and they're investors like us who don't have a 9-to-5 schedule. So, and usually those people are looking for better prices anyways. But most people will sit not booked. I'd rather be booked. So knowing when to turn your prices down and up is crucial, and when to do it. Not just doing it in the first place, because by the time slow season hits, if you're turning your price down, it's too late. And that's something I learned on my first year. I didn't know that because I just wasn't I just didn't know. So now you know it. Number 3 is add ROI amenities. This is return on investment amenities. There are certain things that are very easy to put into your property that will make you more money. So I actually have to do this on my Texas property, and I'm cheap again, so I don't want to put a hot tub in, but I better do it because those are the properties getting booked during slow season. So having those, that's an easy thing to add to a property. It's just, it can cost you money. So what do you think is the most popular amenity in California?
Hot tub.
Pool. Well, hot tub is a close second. It's probably your next best one, but it's actually a pool. Obviously, pools are very, very expensive. We don't want to just put it in. If you can get one with a pool, though, if you look on AirDNA, Rabu, the highest performing properties in California have pools. So if you're going to do this right off the bat, you might as well just get the pool. I know some people who get the pools after the fact, and it makes such a big difference, but the headache of having to put one in mid-stay with guests, that's not gonna be fun. So planning this in advance and knowing what to add or what amenities you could add before you get the properties can make the biggest difference. And number 4 is better management. I refine this all the time, and it's funny because what does this mean? We want our guests to like us, because that means they give us 5-star reviews. So we are providing a service when you run a short-term rental, which is you want to have a great stay. So yes, you are a hospitality business now. That's like the end-all be-all of this. Just be a better hospitality business and you'll be fine. But most investors don't do that. They don't want to. They think that's too much work. So that's always why I ask, why do you want to do short-term rentals? But if I told you you can make 2 to 3x in long-term rentals, would you do it? Maybe. That it depends on your situation. Another point, and I can't remember where this falls in my slide deck, but the other thing to think about, and this is actually a good transition to what Breanna's going to talk about, is strategic relationships. Most people don't realize with short-term rentals is that you can leverage who you know to stay booked and to get more bookings. In Texas, I did not know this until they told me why they were there, but I actually had, what are they called, linemen that fixed the power lines, and they needed a place to stay. And I'm like, sure, midweek booking, love it, during slow season. But they loved our stay so much they wanted to come back next week. So I'm like, And this is a big midterm rental strategy, is you want these types of people. So again, always wanting to learn more. I ended up having a conversation with the company to see that next time you come out, I want you to book with us directly. And so this is a great strategy for short-term rental investors too, is to leverage relationships with the right avatars. In Redlands, the house that I used to manage, this was a co-hosted property, I literally had contractor special on my title. This isn't a fixer. This is to house contractors. They were building a lot over in Redlands at the time. And where do contractors typically go? They go to hotels. Why go to a hotel when you can just bunk all together in a nice STR? So I had a target avatar of contractors. And that worked out really well because this property was not the prettiest property, but that's just what worked for that area and its location. The next thing is to incentivize guests. So people love a good deal. That's why we're here. But incentivizing guests, how do you do this? Some places, I'll give you an example. Does anyone know where Dollywood is? Okay, it's because we're from California. So Dollywood, so people know Dolly Parton. She owns a part in the Eastern Tennessee in the Smokies, and she has her own. You gotta go visit. I freaking love going to Dollywood. I'll be there in September. But basically, some host, I can't do this unfortunately because I'm out of state, but if you were local enough, and maybe I can find a workaround, some hosts will give free tickets for, like 2 tickets for a guest to come stay with them. And I didn't know this because, again, I'm not in hospitality, but I am now. So now I'm thinking of ways, how do I incentivize guests wherever I am by giving them freebies, discounts, stuff like that. Be a problem solver. So we're in real estate, everyone solves problems, but you also do this in the short-term rental space too. Because how many places can you go to that are fully furnished? You don't have to commit to, 6 months to a year to stay. It's short-term rentals. So solving somebody's problem on what they need. I'll give you an example. My first guest in Moreno Valley stayed for 2 weeks because they were relocating from Ohio. And they only booked us because they liked our backyard, because we had a dog. And we weren't pet friendly, but yes, we were for those first 2 weeks. So we solved a problem. And and now that I'm thinking about this out loud, maybe I should start targeting relocation specialists. But my problem is I'm not in markets currently, a lot of them, that have this situation. Moreno Valley is not a vacation market. So people who are relocating to a vacation market is not going to be as popular as, let's say, in the cities. So if you're here in California, it might be something to think about. But that was something that I didn't realize was an actual issue. I solved a problem by they needed a fully furnished place to stay for a whole family and their dog. Short-term rentals is a good solution for that. Last but not least is to become business-oriented. And this was something I honestly did not realize until later. because I was going it from just a real estate investor perspective, and I've come to learn I really love business. It is like one of the funnest things ever, and I want to do more of it. But short-term rentals is nice because it is a business and real estate combined. You get the appreciation of real estate, but you get the business income of a business. So operate your S-tiers like a business, not just real estate. This is crucial in today's market because people they just don't want to do this, they get left behind, or they outsource to somebody that will do it for them. So there is a market for that. This includes marketing, operations, revenue management, teamwork. Like, this is an operation. And when you get obsessed with the operations and processes like me, it's not as bad. It's not that bad. Nowadays, I honestly probably don't work on it as much, just because I've started to leverage other people to do the day-to-day for me so that I can focus on doing other stuff instead. But I do enjoy, I love getting bookings every time I see one. I'm like, thank you. There's a book called Happy Money, and one of the things that he says is to have a better relationship with money, right? So anytime I see Airbnb booking, I'm like, thank you, because you just, paid for my groceries today, today or whatever. So, last but not least, market and property selection. This is the other big thing to stay afloat, and not only stay afloat but thrive in short-term rentals is really dialing this in. Because, and I'm saying this because I'm an agent and I see this all the time nowadays, is that those who have crystal clear buy boxes do so much better and make better moves than people who don't know what their buy box really is. Having clear goals, again, why do people do this asset class? Besides the fact that, it's so front-loaded, you can do cost segregation to offset your W-2 income. You can get a tax write-off if you invest in the vacation market. You can make more money if you operate it correctly. And then, again, understanding what you're getting into. A lot of people that don't do well, and I'm seeing this now, of why people sell is because they didn't realize how much work this is. This is not passive by any means. So I want to make that clear. If you hear the word passive with short-term rentals, it's not. So it's a lot of work, but if you're the right person for this, or if you have the right systems, I think it's worth it, because I was able to quit nursing because of this. So that's me. If you guys have questions, we're going to do a last one, but if you can scan my QR code, you can connect with me. All my stuff's there. And yeah, thank you guys.
All right, I won't switch the slides because I see some of you pulling out your phone. I will wait a minute. Oh, I won't switch anyway until I sit down. So, what do you guys think? Did you learn something? Awesome. All right, well, next up is also a good friend of mine. They always help me out on these whenever I need them. So I'll call it Breanna Williams. She is an interior designer, and long list of all the things that you can do. So come on up. All right, give a round of applause.
Hi, how are you? Good. Well, Stephanie's hard to follow. I kind of already knew that. I've seen her speak so many times. Wonderful. Well, so I'm here to talk to you guys about midterm rentals. How many of us know what a midterm rental is? Most of us. Awesome. How many of us have midterm rentals? Okay. Cool. Well, hopefully you can learn a little bit about midterm rentals today. So ultimately, Farrah wants me to talk about a market update. So how are midterm rentals comparing now to, let's just say, last year? So first of all, a little bit about me. This is my family. I'm a mom of 4 little ones, anywhere from 3 to 12. I am a soccer mom. I didn't ever think that was going to happen, but that is me. I'm probably going to get a soccer van too pretty soon. It's going to have to happen. I own Mumford Designs, which is an interior design studio that specializes in investment properties, specifically hospitality properties, so short-term rental, midterm rental. I'm also an MTR co-host. I'm also an MTR consultant and an Airbnb superhost, as I think many Airbnb people are. So if you're not familiar with midterm rentals, which I think we just kind of covered the fact that we pretty much all are, essentially short-term rentals, but for a little bit of a longer period. So you're furnishing the property, and your avatars are definitely different than what you're going to see in short-term rental. Although I was really shocked to hear that Stephanie has seen so many what I would consider midterm rental avatars at some of her short-term rental properties. So state of the market. What has changed? We've seen a lot of people move into midterm rentals. Some of them are coming from short-term rentals. They may have gotten into it and realized, holy cow, this is a lot of work. I get it. I've co-hosted short-term rentals, and it is a lot of work. So some people move into the midterm rental space from that. Other people they've run into restrictions within their city or their markets where they can no longer operate as a short-term rental. So they're forced into running as a midterm rental. That is not to say that you cannot be as successful as your short-term rental. I truly, truly believe that you can. In fact, I would say you can have a successful midterm rental in almost any market. It's just about knowing who's coming to the property, why they're coming, and how you can best serve them. So if you were here in April of last year, I actually spoke a little bit about midterm rentals here at one of the first Fire Focus events. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the numbers from April 2023 and compare them to the numbers from June this month. So when I ran these numbers originally, I picked Menifee. That's where I'm from, that's where I live, so it's just a little bit easier to take a look at that market. So these numbers are from furnishfinder.com/stats. Has anybody used that website before? One? Just one? Okay, furnishfinder.com/stats. Write that down. It's a free website. If you want to know if there's demand in a market, this is the first place I go to when I'm searching for demand. All right, so what it's going to tell you when you type in your city, you can actually set the parameters, like do you want to go 25 miles away, 50 miles away, 100 miles away, and it'll show you all of the surrounding cities. So what it's doing is it's pulling the map searches and housing requests from the last 12 months. In this case, in April, it was 66,509, and you can see that today, in June, it's 117,220. So demand is definitely going up. Now, let's look at the supply. That's this in pink here. So you're also looking at, these are just page views, but I mean, if you're like me, you go into the same listing 15 times when you're running comps, so I don't necessarily pay attention to the page views, it's more so the actual searches. So down here, what we're looking at, last year in April, there was 610 rentals in Menifee. Out of those, 339 were rooms, so like rooms in a house. They were just renting one room out of their house. 270 were private units or whole homes. There was one hotel. Check this out. There are no hotels now. At least not that showed on Furnished Finder. So this year there's 666. So a few more. But here's where there's opportunity. There's what, 56 more properties that are listed on Furnished Finder from last year? But there's, gosh, like, what is that, 60,000 almost? Right? So there's a lot of demand, not as much supply has been added to the area. You cannot short-term rental in Menifee. You can't. But you can midterm rental. And you just need to know who you're renting to. So here you're going to see there's 666. Not very many more rooms were added, only 356. People started catching on that the area is growing, and they started renting out whole houses, 310. Sorry, 1 second. So you're going to see a significant increase in demand and a moderate increase in supply. This is just one market. Like Steph said, there's no blanket statements. There might be markets that you come across when you're doing research where you're going to find the opposite is true. That just might not be a market you want to invest in. So what is different? What are we seeing with the listings that we're pulling up today? So here on the left, this is April 2023. And if you were here when I talked about this last year, what I was showing was the top 5 mistakes that I see when I run property audits or when I'm running comps for my clients. So what we were seeing was old dated furniture, just the properties were not designed with intention, like cords running everywhere. This one on the top left, I remember talking about, hey, this is a nice looking property, but it wasn't done with intention. Look at all these picture frames floating right above where people are going to sleep. Not intentional, right? So probably not professional. Short-term rentals this time last year, 100% people were going with professional design. Midterm rentals weren't there yet. We're catching up. People are definitely going with professional designs in midterm rentals. Only one of these is mine. This one up here is mine. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you can see here, very intentional, very professional. They have their towels. They're showing you that they're fully stocked. This one on the bottom right, looking really nice. Black walls. There's some trendiness to it. So professional design, intentional, trend-forward design. This is what we're seeing now. We're also seeing professional photography. Last year, not so much professional photography. Can you guys see me okay? I feel like I keep moving this. Last year, not so much professional photography. Definitely this one down here, not professional. The lighting is off. It's dark in the room that they're photographing. The lights are on in the hallway. Doesn't make sense. To the right, definitely professional photography. And then the last thing is unique amenities. These properties did not have unique amenities. They were places to sleep. And that's maybe more so how people viewed midterm rentals. Now people see more potential in them, so they're investing a little bit more in them. So we're creating unique amenities like kids' corners. Heading into some of the amenities. These are a lot of the amenities that I actually put into the properties that I designed. Pretty common, dedicated workspace. Most midterm rentals need them because a lot of people are working from home. Fully stocked kitchen. Most midterm rentals need them. That's the benefit of staying at an MTR versus staying in a hotel. But here's where we're starting to see some differences. Home gyms, outdoor kitchen, grill station, outdoor living, especially in Southern California. Kids' rooms, family entertainments like we just saw. Pet-friendly amenities. And the big one that I don't feel like anybody's talking about right now is concierge services. What are concierge services? Well, when you have people that are coming to your property, whether it's a doctor that's coming and staying for 90 days, or whether it's a corporate, somebody that's coming, they want convenience out of their properties, or out of their rental. So you can make things convenient by giving them grocery delivery, meal delivery, drivers. Jesse Vasquez even rents out his cars. There's a platform where you can do that too, kind of like on Airbnb. So these are some of the things that people are doing today in their MTRs that set them apart from everybody else. And then here are kind of some different marketing strategies that I don't think as many people were using last year as compared to this year. Number one, direct bookings has definitely gone up. As we've seen that become more and more popular in STR, we're also seeing it become more popular in MTR. So business to business is another one. What does that mean? That's like Steph was saying. She called the company and she said, hey, I had your guys stay at my house. If you need them to come again, just call me directly. So that's business to business. If you do some research on your property from the get-go, you'll see what businesses are in your area. Throughout kind of managing the property, you'll see if there's people that are coming into the property that are staying and that are working in the area. You call that business directly and you create that contract through that. So sometimes it's corporate, sometimes this is through another insurance company, so you can have insurance relocations as well. And then we have temporary housing specialists. So these are folks who, it is quite literally their job to find temporary housing for a variety of different guests. That could be corporate rentals, that could be insurance relocations, but they're getting all of these leads, in some cases, 50 to 100 leads per day, all over the country. So if you can leverage these individuals, they can definitely help you fill your property. Keep in mind, you're gonna pay them a fee. Generally, maybe like around 10%, some are higher, some are lower, but just anticipate that. So if you can anticipate that by pricing a little bit higher, you can always negotiate down, or they're going to try to negotiate. They're going to want it less expensive. And if you're priced higher than what you need or what you want, you have a little bit of room for negotiation. Now, at the Midterm Rental Summit that we had in April, was it April or May? So at the Midterm Rental Summit they had in San Diego in April, we had a really incredible speaker who talked about government contracts. So he shifted from an STR into an MTR when he started working with as a hot pad or a flight pad, crash pad, for flight attendants and pilots. So he started doing that. That was kind of how he stepped into the MTR space. And as he kind of did that for a little bit longer, he started getting government contracts. So sometimes that's military, sometimes that's the government has some project that they're putting on and they need to have a bunch of people stay for a significant period of time. So he actually got the contract, like 300 rooms that they needed, hotel rooms. He saw that there was a need for that, and he took that need and he went to a hotel and he did the negotiation, and he essentially arbitraged an entire hotel for the period that the government needed it. The government paid it. He had his markup on 300 rooms for, 6 months. And he did it again, and he did it again, and he did it again. So if you don't know who Noble Crawford is, YouTube him, because he is highly inspirational in terms of the potential where you could take this. It doesn't have to just be one house. It could be multiple houses, but let's just say you have a large home, like Stephanie said, she has some that are 9 bedrooms. If you have that, you can still leverage that by just looking bigger. Look bigger than just a family that wants to come and stay for 3, 4, 5, 6 nights. Look bigger than nurses that are traveling in a group that want to stay for 90 days. Just look bigger. And that was kind of what I grabbed from him. Now the old way of doing things still works. The property that I co-host in Garden Grove, we have, I would say, more than 50% of our guests are international travelers, like she was saying. They're coming for 6, 8, 10 weeks at a time, and they're staying with us all year round. We just had somebody that came from Europe for 4 weeks to visit family and attend a graduation. I have a guest coming next week who's coming for 8 weeks with their family, and they're gonna come out here. They're gonna stay in Garden Grove for a couple of months while their kids are on, I guess, summer break. So Airbnb still works, Furnished Finder still works, Vrbo still works, Booking.com still works for midterm rentals, but the true success is in business to business because you have a little bit more control and there's more consistency. So that's where I've seen like the biggest change, I would say, in marketing strategies this year. That's it. Anything good? Timeless? I kind of brushed up some things today.
All right, so everyone's been waiting to ask all their questions, right? Because I have a couple too. So we'll bring Steph back up to the stage. Who wants to ask the first question? Oh, look at all those hands. Wow, okay. We'll go ahead and make sure to speak up so the audience can hear you, okay? And then you got your mic. Okay, cool.
Hi. Thank you both for the presentation. Thank you. So my question to you, or both of you, is I'm looking into short-term rental, which is up to 7 days, I believe it is. I don't know. I'm asking actually. What is the time frame between a short-term and a
Okay, so the question is, what's the difference between length of stay for a short-term rental versus a midterm rental? So it depends on where you are, but a safe number is 28 days or less, depending on where you are. So if it's less than 28 days stays, you can assume it's a short-term rental. If it's more than that, it's now midterm rental territory.
And that is, that's the same as having, okay, you have a short-term rental that's, what you said, up to 28 days?
Less than 28
Less
days.
than 28 days? So then what happens, well, the 29 days turn into the middle?
Technically, so if somebody books with you and they stay for, let's just say you're running a short-term rental, you market your property as a short-term rental, and you do accept bookings that are less than 28 days, then that is in fact a short-term rental. But if you have a booking that extends past that 28 days, it doesn't necessarily mean that now your property is a midterm rental. I would consider it a hybrid, and hybrid is a great strategy if you are able to run short-term rentals, but you like the convenience of having somebody stay longer, or in some cases, during peak season, you can run as a short-term rental. During slow season, you might get people who want to stay longer, like snowbirds or something like that. And so you're running as a hybrid. Sometimes it's short-term, sometimes it's midterm.
Yeah, I have that in Texas right now. My short term became 45 days. Guess what? We're midterm, and I'm like, oh, thank God we're in Texas. But yeah, so it's good to have that hybrid in some states.
In Texas, that's a month.
45 days is the month?
I know. And I'm like, I'm all
Everything's
nervous
big.
about them. Like, they're gonna leave, right? Like,
Yeah, that is a little nerve-wracking, and some people do get a little
it was
hesitant on that.
fantastic. They didn't need anything.
No, they're honestly, they're so easy for the most part. They're really pretty simple. They just want to come and stay, hang out, and just.
I get suspicious when they want to stay. I just got a 37-day stay in Tennessee, and I'm like, why? Like, what are you here for? And I'm suspicious when I see that, but they paid in full, so that's good so far. And they did direct. That was another Airbnb conversion to direct.
All right, go ahead.
What, in terms of the bureaucracy of knowing which cities, which areas will allow short-term versus midterm, is there any software or companies that are good at reporting that?
So unfortunately, there's no softwares, but the way to find out if you can do short-term rental is to type in the city name and then short-term rental ordinance. If you type the ordinance as the keyword, you'll get the government website usually.
But so are also
So there's a website called Avalara, My Lodge Tax. This is a website that you can use to apply for short-term rental permits and remit taxes for short-term rentals directly. They also have the laws typically on that website, but the most accurate information will be if you just put the city and then short-term rental ordinance. Because it could be regulated by the city or it could be regulated by the county. In California, if it's incorporated, it's city regulated. If it's unincorporated, it's the county.
And how much of an effect do you think there's been with cities that did allow short-term rentals that now don't, in terms of your numbers that you were showing for a decline?
So I don't know what numbers those, like that was like a blanket statement, that's why I cautioned that in the beginning. But what I'm seeing, at least as an agent side of things, cities right now are realizing they can make money off of short-term rentals. That's why they're starting to do a lot more TOT taxes or transient occupancy taxes. So what they're limiting more is the number of permits that they'll allow in a city. Palm Springs is a great example because now they changed it, I think in December 2023 or 2022, where it's by organized neighborhood. So each neighborhood, you can see this on their website, you can type in Palm Springs short-term rental ordinance, which neighborhoods have that met their cap and which ones haven't. So they're just limiting it more than eliminating it. That was sounds very small. Yeah.
And what I've seen as well as I see and I hear a lot of chatter, especially about certain cities in Orange County. Orange County has been really hot to just ban all STRs. Again, that's the fear mongering that Steph was talking about earlier today. That's not how it happens. It doesn't somebody just raises their hand and say, ban all STRs, and somebody says, okay. No, it doesn't happen like that. There's an approval process, there are city meetings. Santa Ana's been trying to do this for over a year, and they're still not there. Did they vote yes to ban them? Yes. But they also have a certain amount of time where they have to pitch the resolution. So I anticipate that's going to look something like what Steph was just talking about. They're going to put a permit plan in place. You have to apply. You have to pay for the permit. The city's going to make money off of this, and the city's going to charge you taxes, and they're going to make money off of that. So more cities are leaning towards that in terms of regulations as opposed to just straight banning them. So in the interim, if you need to and they require it, you shift to midterm rental. Does not mean that you have to close your property down altogether. You just shift to taking some longer term bookings, or some people still try to run short-term rentals and just try to stay under the radar. So your business, your choice. Yes.
How do you guys both mentioned this, your target avatar? How do you guys go about building it? And is it the same for every market that you're in?
I think it depends on the house, to be honest, who your target avatar is. One easy way to find out is just like I can look at comps on Zillow, you can look at comps on Airbnb, and I would look at the reviews. Because what the reviews will show you is who's visiting, why they're visiting. I'll give you a good example. Some places target like Scottsdale, Arizona, girls love to go out there. So if you look at properties there, you might see more of a certain avatar that's naturally coming out with certain bed sizes or houses in location. So that's how you figure out what your subject property would do as when you start doing stuff like that on Airbnb.
And this is a service that I directly offer to my clients. We do a property audit, and in that property audit, we identify primary, secondary, and tertiary avatars. You don't ever want to just bank on one. The reality is you are going to see a variety of different types of avatars, but it's important to know who's coming to the property so that you can set it up appropriately, and so that you can target them in your marketing endeavors. So when I'm looking at a property, it doesn't matter if it's in Palm Springs, or Big Bear, or Dana Point. What I start with is, first and foremost, I look for the demand and supply, supply and demand, and then I just do a Google search. Are there jobs in the area? Who's hiring in the area? What types of jobs are there? Is there construction in the area? So are crews coming through? What are the local attractions in the area? If it's Newport Beach, people want to shop there. People want to dine there. It has the beach. That sounds like a vacation place to me, except for maybe your property doesn't allow vacation rentals. So you can write that in there and know that you're looking for extended vacationers. And then when you start to dig into the demographics and psychographics of that particular type of avatar, that just kind of guides you, because if you know that they're extended vacationers, but Newport's expensive, what type of people are coming and staying in a place for 4 weeks or 8 weeks where they're able to pay $10K plus a month? That tells you their demographics. Maybe they're older. What type of job do they have? How much is their income? Once you start to know that, you know their standard of living. You can provide that same standard of living in your property so that it attracts them. So that's, and I always say it's designing backwards, because we want to know who it is and we want to research that. Now, let's say it's not Newport Beach. Let's say it's Irvine. Well, what's in Irvine? So you start looking at, sometimes I just go to Yelp, like what are the top things to do in Irvine? And it'll pull up a few different items. But I also love Facebook groups. Specifically, buy, sell, trade Facebook groups. That tells us, what are people getting rid of? If you see people are getting rid of a Pottery Barn piece of furniture, which is not inexpensive, and it's only 6 months old, and they put in there, nothing wrong with it, I just want something new. That's the type of person that you're, pretty much attracting into your midterm rental at least. Because a lot of times midterm rentals, especially if we're targeting entrance relocation claims, they're coming from generally within a mile of your property. So you want to know the demographics of what's in your neighborhood, specifically on your street. So I hope that helps. Anyone else? Yes.
A twofold question. So, if they do ban short-term in an area, which I'm sure you've seen, does anybody get grandfathered in? Those that are already doing it, have you noticed that?
Yeah, that does happen. La Quinta is a good example. They don't allow single families, new ones, to get S-term permits, but there are the existing ones that are grandfathered. Oh, the question was, have I seen areas that ban short-term rentals grandfather existing short-term rentals in? And the example I gave was La Quinta. They did that for their people. Other places do.
And the second part of that would be, if it got banned and you weren't grandfathered in, what type of haircut would you get?
So his question is, if the city, or it could even be an HOA, if there are regulations that suddenly ban the use or the purpose of STR at your property, and you have to go midterm, and he's asking, what do we need to do that? In many cases, you don't have to do much. Your STR was already probably more attractive than most NTRs are anyway. So the biggest thing is restructure your guest avatar. So just like if you owned some sort of business in whatever city, let's just say it's a restaurant, and suddenly the demographic totally changes in your city because of one reason or another. Well, now you have to attract a different type of avatar. Let's just say they went the opposite way and now they're pushing tourism in your town. Before, you wanted repeat guests, but now there's so much tourism, you don't get repeat guests. So how do you change your marketing strategy, right? It's the same thing for your STR/MTR. You have to change your marketing strategy, and that starts with who you're marketing to. So that's probably square one. Now, when you pick a new avatar, you might realize there are certain things that you need to put into your property that maybe you didn't have before, but 9 times out of 10, you already had more than you needed for an MTR anyway.
And then I think he was asking too, like, cost, like, your income-wise too, right? Like,
Profitability, what would it
how
in
much
this
changes?
environment where interest rates are where they are?
It's funny, they used to say LTR rates, for MTR you would kind of double it, you could make double your LTR rate for an MTR, and maybe triple for your STR. I have seen MTRs that are pushing 3 to 4 times the long-term rental rates. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think it's really taken advantage of people who are in situations where they need these properties. These are people who have to come here for work. These are people who just lost their house to a fire or a flood. And to take advantage of them, that's not where I lie ethically. But you can. It's just a matter of, again, running the numbers. So if I was underwriting a property, right off the bat, I would underwrite it, if I'm purchasing a new property, I would underwrite it as a long-term rental, as a midterm rental, and as a short-term rental, and then pick what I want to do.
Lorena?
What kind of marketing platform you use for attracting the government agency?
So the question is, what type of marketing platform are you using to attract government agencies? So first and foremost, you have to set up your profile with the government, and there are a couple of things that you need to do there. Now, if you look up Noble Crawford on YouTube, you will find things, certain events that he's spoken at or certain videos. Noble Crawford. It's Noble, N-O-B-L-E, plug for Noble, Crawford, C-R-A-W-F-O-R-D.
We love Noble.
He honestly, he was incredible. So if you look him up on YouTube, you will find him talking about a couple of things, but I believe it's sam.gov. I think that's it, is it? Okay. So that's where you would set up your profile, and then you're going to go in and you can see all the government contracts and things of that nature that they're listing. So they'll have a list. Sometimes it's the Department of Interior. It's just so many different ones. Gosh, you could have they have contracts for housing. They have contracts for, food and beverage. They have contracts for everything.
They need to spend.
Yes, they need to spend it. And I will say, if your business, if you are the owner of your business and you are a minority, or if you are a woman, you are either a meebie or a weebie, or if you are a minority woman, you are a meebie weebie, and you can double end that. So the thing about that is, the government is required to give so many contracts to minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses. If you are a double, raise your hand. We kind of have a leg up now. Remember when you were little and they said, you don't have a leg up. We have a leg up now. So you can leverage that to get more contracts if you are going that route.
Sorry, guys.
Steph, I had a follow-up question on something you said earlier. You were talking about if you wanted a higher occupancy and reducing your nightly rate, or have a higher rate and it reduces your occupancy. What do you prefer? Like, what's your preference?
Depends on the property. So on the bigger properties, I don't care as much about occupancy as I do about my nightly rate. And the reason why is because there's no ceiling when it comes to these bigger properties. It's more of the demand for that property. But for smaller ones, like 2 bedrooms or less, you are competing. So for those ones, I'm more about occupancy than I am about getting the higher nightly rate, because that person's going to eventually figure out, I might as well get a 3 bedroom. So unless you have really killer amenities, though, there's exceptions to this rule. I've seen 2 bedrooms in Joshua Tree that are outperforming 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, because the amenities deck out is insane. So we're talking 2 bedrooms with theater rooms, pool, sauna, cold plunge. I just sold one, actually. If you want more, I have more deals. But my point is that it depends. So there's more variables, but generally that's how I feel about it. Margaret.
At Moreno Valley, 4-bedroom, is that sort of hybrid? You do short-term rental during the peak demand season, and midterm or off season?
So I don't have that property, and I wish, so the question was, do I do a hybrid with that Moreno Valley property, short-term and midterm? So I didn't keep it long enough to be able to do midterm rental. I actually got kicked out of the HOA, so again, don't do as I did. I'm a little bit more, I don't know, risk-averse, I guess, but this was my first property, okay? So I did what was required, and I knew it was temporary. But what I did do was I had, interestingly enough, I had midterm rental components to, like, avatars as a short term. I'd get lawyers from Long Beach who needed to go to San Bernardino for court cases and would stay with me Monday through Thursday, which worked out well. And then the LA people came on the weekends. I don't know why LA people come to Breanna Valley, but that was a very common avatar that I had.
I have a question. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would do that would attract those types of guests who are maybe looking more for the Monday through Friday? Those are hard dates to book when you're in an STR. So is there anything that you can do that would attract those avatars?
Again, it comes back to visibility and marketing. So I didn't know enough back then to just capitalize on it. It was more of just like, oh, this is interesting. They found me somehow. Or they picked our place because they liked the design out of it and the occupancy. There's only 3 people that stayed in that house that could book 12, so they had, their work was paying for it. But I would probably, if I still had that property and I was trying to maximize local, I would get on the phones and start making relationships. I would literally say, hey, let's keep this going, and we can work out some sort of schedule. It's a little bit more difficult with short-term rentals though, because if you're booked a couple weeks in advance, that's a week that they can't book. So there's pros and cons to that, but that's what I would do. Yeah.
All right, so you mentioned earlier that, to treat it as a business and instead of just real estate. What would you say would be like maybe the top 1 or 2 business skills that you would need to be successful as your business?
Marketing. I didn't realize how much marketing this is, but if you think about it, it is visibility. If they don't know about you, they're not going to book you. So on Airbnbs, people they obsess about rankings, because if you're page 11, you're not getting booked. But if you're at least in the top 5, top 3 pages of Airbnb, you're more likely to get booked, because the behavior is that guests get lazy after a while, and they just, unless they're big planners and they're very specific, they'll go with the first couple that they see. So number 1 is marketing. And you don't have to be the marketer, you can outsource. There's actually STR companies now that only do marketing for people. So you can actually outsource part of that operation. And that's something I started realizing, because I self-manage all my properties, but I now don't really do the day-to-day, but I still oversee them. So marketing would be the first thing, and the second one would be revenue management. And this is because hotels have specific revenue managers that keep them booked all year round. STR investors don't think about that. They realize this way later when they realize that they're not getting booked because they haven't done anything about their pricing. So that would be the second skill I would do.
And I would say a really close third, I totally agree with you, my gut was marketing and financials. Those are the 2 things that, they drive businesses forward, regardless of what your business is. But a very, very close third is leveraging. You can't grow your business if you don't know how to leverage other people's experience, other people's zones of genius. I'm really big on that right now, because I can't do everything, even for an interior design company. I cannot do everything. I have to outsource if I want to see my business grow. The same comes through co-hosting. The same comes through owning and operating your own STR or MTR. That's such a close third one, but yeah, you gotta be leveraging your financials.
That should be the top 3. I agree.
Anyone else?
Sam, question.
Oh. Go ahead, Shannon.
I actually had guests that were, sorry guys, I keep messing up. The question was, have we ever had issues with neighbors not being happy with our guests? So I've actually had guests not happy with my neighbors because the neighbors were throwing a party and the guests came from the East Coast and it was 6 o'clock at night. I can't make this up, okay? These are the things that we deal with, but again, being a nurse can be a real problem, right? So I have had an owner of mine, when I used to co-host, she had one of her neighbors, I swear, was out to get her. So it does happen. So I personally like to make friends with my neighbors and turn them from the Karen to a job. Like, hey, your role is to call me first instead. So you make allies out of your neighbors and give them cookies and gummy bears. You think I'm joking? I give my guests, I Instacart my guests when I give them stuff, gummy bears. And who wants flowers when you have gummy bears? So.
Yeah, I don't like eating flowers.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the gummy bears.
Just give them so much love. People can't be mean when you're nice to them. It makes them feel bad.
That right there. Yeah, you do. You want to get your neighbors on your side from the get-go, preferably. But sometimes that's not the case. Or sometimes you get a new neighbor and they're really hesitant. And honestly, a lot of times it comes down to education. They get so nervous because they're afraid of who's coming into the area and what type of people are you going to let come into this house. Are they going to have parties, etc.? And you can let them know that there are strict rules. They have to agree and abide by these rules or they get kicked out. Or they get fined, or whatever the case may be. So in fact, it would actually be super helpful if you let me know if these things happen, right? Because I don't want my guests they're not going to trash my property, so if you see anything or you hear anything, please let me know. And then send them the gummy bears.
Yeah. But yeah, it does happen. It's just hard, unfortunately. But I feel like that's with almost anything. But yeah, short-term rentals, when they see strangers, they freak out. And I'm like, at least they're not. They're leaving in 3 days. Okay. Okay, I see Andy.
Are either of you putting in audio decibel meters in your units so you can know when they're partying?
I used to. So there's a product called Minute, M-I-N-U-T, and that it looks like a fire detector, but it's actually a noise monitor. So I used to do this. I didn't do it anymore because I have other ways to figure out if they're misbehaving. But yeah.
I don't use them in my properties.
So the last 2 questions for here. So Evan, you next.
Sorry.
How extensive of security cameras do you put in your house? Is it just outside or legally can you put inside?
The question is cameras. Can we put them inside or do we keep them outside?
Definitely no cameras inside. Number 1, it's not allowed. Number 2, it really is just an invasion of privacy. I don't have my own properties that I own. I co-host properties. But I've had properties who have 0 cameras, and I've had properties which had 8 cameras for one property. Here's what I'll say about cameras. They can come in handy, if you need proof that they threw a party or they had more guests than they were supposed to have. I think it's okay to monitor that at check-in and check-out on maybe your Ring camera. But if you have cameras around your property for security purposes, it's okay, but I don't think they should be monitored when guests are there. I just look at it from the perspective, if I was a guest and my family was staying there, I wouldn't want people to be able to see, I don't want you to hear me yelling at my kids, to be honest with you. But, right, let's be real. At some point, they're going to get scolded during the weekend. I don't need you to hear it. I don't want you to hear it. But there are people who feel the need when there are cameras. You feel this pull, I have to check the cameras. So maybe think about that before you put cameras into the property. Or just don't have the password saved so you can't just keep getting into the cameras. But I am a fan of a Ring camera at the front just to make sure that they're not having 15 people come into the house that sleep 6.
So yeah, cameras inside. Airbnb actually used to have a rule that you just had to tell them that you had cameras inside. Disclosure. They took that away, so now you can have them inside. I don't have them inside because I just don't. Outside I do, and what's funny is that I used to get the notifications. Honestly, I use my Ring cameras now to just make sure I still have Wi-Fi when guests complain that the Wi-Fi went off. I'm like, no, the Ring cameras are still online. So it's actually a check, but I use it to check to make sure, did my cleaners show up? And when did they, that's usually the reason. And I've gotten footage of bears eating or getting my trash cans. If you actually go on my Instagram, my number one videos is a bear stealing my trash can. So it's actually a good thing because I thought the guest was polite. And I also found out that the neighbor next door that was under construction was stealing my water. through my Ring camera, and I was yelling at them through the Ring camera. That was, 2,000 miles away. So there's it is a safety thing. So I ended up getting my cleaners to put a cap on it so that they couldn't keep siphoning water so my bill doesn't go up. But I use it more now just for, I don't even use it for guests. Except the one time that a guest, I kept getting notifications and I actually don't have them on anymore. But he was trying to scare a bear off in his underwear outside. And I'm like, oh my God. It's actually, now I find this funny because I don't think about it, but whenever I've had to look past it, I'm like, oh, that happens. Yeah. So cameras inside, no. Cameras outside is fine. People will trip out about that. And I have some entertainment.
So I know someone that has a short-term in Mar Vista. It's Marina Del Rey, and she makes about $5 to $6 grand over on a studio over a garage. She put in a stove and laundry upstairs for the amenities. She got a knock on her door from code enforcement, and the city of LA had hired somebody to check out people's short terms and compare it to permits pulled, and they're going after those people. Have you seen that anywhere else?
Anaheim. But you're also, LA operates by different rules. Like, I don't like LA. When it comes
Did everybody
to that.
hear? I just wanted to know if did you guys hear in the back?
Oh,
No.
sorry. Again, I did that. Okay, so the question was, code enforcement, their LA County is sending a specific person to basically check if the code enforcement, if there's a discrepancy with short-term rentals and things like that. And I'm seeing this in Anaheim as well, but not just LA.
But realistically, the smart move would have been to have that ADU permitted, and then that wouldn't have been an issue. So if you are going to put an ADU in your garage or just in your backyard, the best thing really is to have it permitted. If you were to come into a situation where the city was going to regulate, or even your HOA is regulating, and you needed a permit, and you didn't have that ADU permitted when you built it, you're not going to be able to run it. So it just doesn't make sense to invest the money if you're not going to do it the right way.
Anaheim County, by the way, because city of Anaheim you can't do STRs, but county side you can. That's where I saw it recently. It's a small sliver that no one knows about. Yeah,
that's how people are pitched.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for sitting through everything.
you.
Thank you, ladies. Wow, that was, every time you come up, I'm like, I thought I heard everything about short-term rentals and midterm rentals, and then I didn't. So, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh. All right, one last question for everyone here. Who already purchased their ticket for John Shop? Oh, lots of hands. Okay. I did want to, Evan, do you want to come up and do that announcement, or do you want me to do it? I can do it. Okay. So, Evan and Angela did offer people, is anyone, well, you don't have to raise your hand, but if you're like, I really, really want to go, but it's, the ticket price is an issue, but you really want to go, they're doing $100 towards your ticket. So just go up to them and you could talk to them privately or shoot them a text or a phone call. And Andy's raising his hand in the back.
I finance.
And Andy also does financing. So if you want a ticket, he will set up payments for you over a period of time. So you can talk to him about that as well. So we don't want you guys to not be able to go just because of a financial issue. Because John Schaub is I've heard him speak a few times. He is really easy to listen to. He has one of those talk radio voices. So you're not gonna just as he's speaking, you'll see what I'm talking about when he comes out. It is a 2-day event, June 22nd and 23rd. And on Saturday night, for attendees only, we are gonna, like how we have the networking with all the tables up, we are also doing that. So just for attendees, and we'll have food and drinks. So just let you know, it's a lot of fun. Not only are you learning, but then you're building relationships with people. Like I said, Stephanie and I have done a deal. I'm doing 7 mobile homes with Manny and Rich, and our lender. And you start building relationships in this group, and it becomes easier to do deals. So speaking of, John, not necessarily will be teaching you about short-term rentals or midterm rentals, but he will teach you strategies on how to buy that house that you want. Okay? So hopefully we'll see you there, and thank you all for coming tonight. I greatly appreciate it. All right.